Jonas Vingegaard has come out and said that while his team uses carbon monoxide for testing, he has effectively accused other teams of using it for performance gains, which, if you'll remember from Ronan's reporting last summer, was one of the reasons we went so deep into the story, is because this was a concern. So I'm just going to pass over to Ronan now to ask for his take, ask if he feels vindicated after a lot of people put him up for a fair bit of criticism over his reporting, which now is having a 2-time Tour de France winner back in it. So, Ronan.
I think the correct answer here, Jonny, is that it's not about me.
Okay, yes, that is true. But I thought I'd give the context.
Yes.
Before you give your take.
That's the correct answer. I think the frustrating thing here is I'm not even going to single out Visma, Lisa Bike, Jonas Vingegaard, anybody here, but sort of the flip-flopping that we've seen in a lot of the reaction to that piece last summer on the use of carbon monoxide. And as we spoke about, countless times before, the difference between there being a legitimate medical and measurement use case for breathing carbon monoxide and then there being the potential for performance enhancing use of carbon monoxide. And yeah, like my opinion on this hasn't changed for as long as we're talking about the sport that we're talking about and the history that the sport has and the individuals who are still involved in the sport. Then the ease and the temptation of which you could switch from measuring to performance enhancing is all too simple at the moment. And so you wrote about before Christmas, the UCI are going to seek a ban on the performance enhancing aspect of it. And while that may be difficult to police and may not be the ultimate solution, it's a step in the right direction. And I think Jonas Vingegaard coming out with these comments, whether he has evidence of that or not, I don't know. But or if he's merely deflecting attention, I don't know. But again, it's another step in the right direction, I think.
So to read the full quote from Jonas, which was given to Le Monde in an interview, Jonas says, some teams are misusing its use by regularly inhaling low doses of carbon monoxide, which causes a significant gain in performance in their riders. This is not fair, and the World Anti-Doping Agency should ban it. What do you think? What do we think's prompted this coming out at the training camp and to give this interview? I mean, his press officer basically tried to stop him, Le Monde says, like mid giving this answer, which I guess is what any good press officer would do. But Vingegaard felt strongly enough to continue, upon this course, which, will bring some more attention to him. Like you just said, Ronan, just because he's saying something doesn't necessarily make it true. So then he knows that he's inviting this on himself. Do we think this is going to help bring about a ban on it? Do we think this is going to add anything more? I think it's a pretty significant step that we've had like such a prominent rider from one of the teams that you reported on using it come out and say this. I mean, UAE have stopped using it completely as well. So it feels like there's a lot of things going on behind the scenes which we're not privy to.
Well, they're leading the way now at this point. I mean, not leading. I mean, they're not in charge, but by Jonas Vingegaard presenting this subject and pursuing it of apparently his own accord, puts him on the front foot, and and the questions would then be less accusatory. When he inevitably turns up at races and gets asked these questions, and the same with appearing to. I'm not suggesting that UAE are lying, but showing that action is being taken or I don't know, it's positive, I think, and I'm not saying that I believe that the sport is clean. I'm not saying that I do or don't believe anyone wholeheartedly. I do have an optimistic outlook on the sport in its current form, more so than in the past, and otherwise I don't think I'd be following it. If this sort of thing was rife, then there would be hard to follow. But yeah, I feel like, I was very surprised to see that Jonas Vingegaard had said these comments, but the more I thought about it, it made a lot of sense because he now puts himself on the right side of it.
Well, and the surprising thing to me is that the only teams that we've heard of that use this are Visma, UAE, and Israel Premier Tech. So by Jonas Vingegaard coming out and saying other teams are doing this, and without naming the teams, which also would be a mad thing to do anyway, because you're going to get yourself in all sorts of bother there. But it kind of feels, or a lot of people will feel, that he's then pointing the finger in the direction of the other ones, even there's no evidence to say that, but that is what he's doing a bit.
I think you're getting back to what I was talking about there earlier, Jonny, with like when I mentioned flip-flopping, and if I take a second to explain what I mean about, like, when I say that, is that what we initially got from Visma Bike was a no when asked do they use this rebreathing machine. Then during the tour we got a yes, and then we also got from Visma and from UAE an explanation as to why they use carbon monoxide rebreathing, which is the measurement technique. And the explanation was that they use that before and after altitude training camps to measure the effectiveness of the camp. And we were told by UAE specifically that that was actually the I'm trying to remember the exact phrasing that was used, but that was the responsible approach to take, because it ensured rider health and it allowed them to measure the response of an altitude training camp. Then, fast forward a few months, and we are told by Visma that they're no longer going to be using the measurement technique because they no longer had access to the device, given that the study they were partaking in had finished. We were told by UAE that they would no longer be doing the rebreathing measurement also, and then you're left wondering, well, what is true here? Is it the responsible thing to do, or is it a useless thing to do? And both can't really be true. And as such, again, I think it's a step in the right direction. It's a good thing that a prominent writer like Jonas Vingegaard is shining a spotlight on the use of carbon monoxide for performance enhancing, and those are comments, those are conversations that wouldn't have happened without the reporting that we did last summer. And again, with it being a substance that is not only undetectable, but is not even banned at the moment. And the practice of inhaling carbon monoxide for performance enhancing is not banned either. At the moment, those conversations are really the only safeguard we have against riders being tempted to abuse this. And if this was 12 months ago, none of us knew that carbon monoxide could be used for performance enhancing. And as such, without the public knowing, riders could be sitting at home tempted to attempt such practices. I'm not saying that happened, but that so long as this conversation isn't happening in public, the temptation and the idea that you could do this without being caught exists. And unfortunately, this is not something you can mess about with. More carbon monoxide does not mean better performance. It means death.
It's not.
And so again, I think it's just a very important conversation to be had, and I think it's incredibly important that writers like Vingegaard come out and make these comments, because let's give him the benefit of the doubt. If he's going to say something like this, he's surely not going to be doing carbon monoxide.
Yeah, exactly. I hope so. Well, and then just reminded me when we were doing the reporting on it, and then the Visma spokesperson after the article was published calling your reporting mendacious. And so it's like, well, so what is it? Should it be banned? Yeah, great choice of word. I've used it so much since I've learned it that day. So what is it? Are we trying to ban it? Is reporting about it mendacious? It's hard. I guess maybe we're holding to too high an account people and their choice of words, but that's kind of it's kind of part of the game and the job. Should we move on?
Maybe just one final pointer is just like the Talo device that Israel and Visma Bike were using or are using or whatever. I don't know where they sit at the moment. I think Israel Premier Tech have said that they will still use it. That device is, as far as we understand it, has like a safeguard built into it where it's like it can be monitored by the developers of that device, and any malicious use or any nefarious use, is that maybe the better term?
That's a good word as well.
Good word. Another good word.
Could be identified, and as such, you would there's theoretically at least there's a safeguard in place there that at least in terms of using that device, these teams couldn't have used it for performance enhancing, which we mentioned at the time, but seemed to go unnoticed.
You know what? It's water under the bridge.